introduced, I'm currently in the organising group for Kelly J. King's Let Women Speak New Zealand tour. We have events for the Let Women Speak tour in Auckland and Wellington. You're all invited. We do need you all there. This is big for New Zealand. This is a game changer for us. We really need to get out on the streets. We really need to start getting our voice heard. We have a struggle in New Zealand with gender ideology. We don't have a lot of media awareness and we're silenced a lot. Our information isn't getting out there through the media. Our health statistics around gender surgeries and so on are either not being recorded consistently or at all. Our research procedures are biased and flawed, and we're pretty heavily captured at organisational level. The ideology is sprinkled pretty liberally throughout the education system. So you have preschoolers being told that they can choose whether they're a boy or girl, right up to tertiary level. It's threaded through all the subjects through schools, right up to tertiary level. I think on Twitter last year there was a tweet going around about a sociology exam in Auckland University where there was a question which was about trans ideology, and they were required to pass that question. They were required to be pro-trans. They were not allowed to be in any way anti. This was not only a pass or fail based on that, but you failed the exam if you were anti. And if you failed the exam, the structure of courses, you failed the course. It's also election year. We've got a busy year ahead of us. And it's census year as well. I'll go into that a little bit later on. In February this year, trans activists held a couple of protests in New Zealand. They were demanding the following changes in government health policy. And I'm going to read out those demands. It's copy and pasted straight from the promotional advertising material. And I'm going to decipher them. They're really badly written. There's commas all over places where there shouldn't be commas. And it's really disingenuous. So number one, fully fund all gender-affirming surgeries outlined in WPATH guidelines. Remove cosmetic label to surgeries such as breast augmentation or facial feminization surgery. That's free surgical procedures like fake breast and chin shaving or whatever they do. Removing the cosmetic label to surgeries such as breast augmentation is something like changing it to life-saving. Apparently that's life-saving now. Number two, establish Maori partnership in reaching health goals. Remove Pākehā measures of gender incongruence. Nothing like a little bit of cultural appropriation there. This is legitimising an ideology based on the myth of the third sex in Indigenous cultures. That's all it is. Number three, increase funding for gender-affirming genital service and investigate barriers to accessing gender-affirming surgeries. Lower referral age for surgery and age required to legally change one's own name to 16. Again, badly written. They want to change the legal age for consent to 16 for surgery and changing your name. I had no idea what gender-affirming genital service is. I assume it's services, but I imagine it's quite grim, and I don't want to know. All I could think was, I wonder if you get little texts saying that your genital service is due. Number four, remove all financial barriers for BDMRR related costs on the basis of gender incongruity with legal documents. Fund rainbow community groups for initiatives around accessing gender affirming clothing. BDMRR is sex self-ID. That comes into effect on 15th of June this year. And I'll be talking a little bit further about that later, but yes, so basically it costs you $55 as of June this year, $55 to change the sex on your birth certificate. That's the only requirement. However, that is too onerous and they would like it free, please. They also want gender affirming clothing free. So I'm assuming that's binders and things like that. I'm hoping it's not those crocheted penises because taxpayers' dollars are not paying for that. Number four, fully fund the most efficient, safe and contemporary trans medicine. For example, funding estrogen injections, implants and transdermal gels. review PAPA guidelines with consultation of transgender people of all demographics. As about free medical interventions, note the recurring theme of money throughout this entire thing. This must be the only so-called civil rights movement that is focused really on cash.
Well, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm a bit difficult to hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Could you speak up? Thank you.
So they ended their promotional spiel with a rabble-rousing, "We hope to see you there. We are not going anywhere." And my God, don't we not? It's very hard for anyone to go anywhere in life when you're stuck in a self-pitying, self-defeating rut of your own making. And this is where we're at. Recently, I attended a seminar which happened to be run by a transgender individual. It wasn't about trans stuff. It just happened to be. During the course of the day, this person, a biological male, made a couple of statements referring to transgender people having only been allowed to exist or live since 2017. I was a little surprised. That passed me by, that, mass genocide had been legal before 2017 apparently. So I did a little bit of research, 2.5 seconds on Google. What he was referring to was that in 2017 Parliament passed the bill that you could change your birth certificate, and the sex marker on your birth certificate. According to the New Zealand Parliament website, the process required to do that, which is still currently enforced because self-sex ID doesn't happen until June. This process is a complex, intimidating and often inaccessible process. So I thought, basically, to change your sex now, you fill in an application form, you write a cover letter, you talk about your story, which given the narcissism should be fairly easy. Sign an affidavit and have some sort of medical intervention. This does not need to be surgery. This can be just hormones. Pop a few pills, we can be in. No, you don't need any psychological therapy at all. So as I said, 15th of June this year, this 3-document process changes, so anyone can self-identify and pay their $55. There is no gender information on the birth certificate, and there is no marker to say that that sex, that biological sex, has been changed. The Department of Internal Affairs, who is managing the birth certificate changes, refers to their own deliberate conflation of sex and gender. So they say the presentation of both sex and gender fields could show a person has amended their birth certificate and lead to them experiencing discrimination. So even though it supposedly reflects gender identity, they are changing the biological sex because it might hurt someone's feelings. They then negate their own comment and say that people generally don't use their birth certificate in everyday life anyway. So that raises further questions. If we don't use the birth certificate in everyday life, where's that discrimination coming from? Potential discrimination. I was out one night, once or twice I go out, and one woman, I don't know very well, she was starting to talk about trans issues, and she stated that intersex people prove that there are 7 biological sexes. I jumped in there, as is my wont, and I argued my point about disorders of sex development, and that it's chromosomal disorders on the 2 biological sexes. She completely ignored me, as usual. And the conversation did deteriorate rather rapidly. She brought up every trans myth that you've ever heard of. Trans women are being murdered in their thousands every day. People can literally change sex. So on and so forth. Marginalising everything. So I started off by my relatively cogent and important arguments. She wasn't listening to anything I say. By the end of it, I had a few drinks. And I do admit that I resorted to making faces at her. It's very immature and very wrong. Now, that's not an important story, really. What is important is what I learned later, was that woman who believes that you can actually change sex, that hormone treatment, hormones, given post-puberty, can actually change your skeletal and muscular structure so that you can, a trans woman can compete in female sports. This woman was a lawyer. And I've always thought, if there's one profession that should have the ability to critically think and the ability to sift through all that information and get to the nugget of truth. What they do with that nugget of truth is something else entirely. But get through to that nugget of truth and see what is actually the basis of reality. Surely it's law. Surely it's law. There's just one person who's conflated biological sex with gender identity that I've come across. The organisations are fully captured as well. I mentioned that with the DIA. So let's look at the New Zealand Human Rights Act 1993. I'm not going to read out the whole thing, it's slightly boring. And it's very unsurprising. I'm going to go over the protected characteristics. Sex, marital status, religious belief, ethical belief, colour, race, ethnic origins, disability including illness, age, political opinion, employment status, family status, whether or not you're a parent, sexual orientation, and it specifically defines that as heterosexual, homosexual, lesbian or bisexual orientation, there is not a pansexual, sapiosexual or asexual in sight. Given that they've been around for centuries, apparently that's very unusual. So according to Employment New Zealand, which is a government department and it prides itself as the leading provider of employment advice to the general public, transgender people have employment protections, namely, quote, prohibition of discrimination on the grounds of sex under the Human Rights Act 1993 is considered to include the grounds of gender identity. Transgender people may be protected under the Human Rights Act 1993 from unlawful discrimination on the grounds of gender identity in the workplace, but this has not been tested in New Zealand courts. So therefore, it's not true. Now, there is a reason it hasn't been tested in New Zealand courts. There wouldn't be an intelligent, self-respecting lawyer that would touch that with a 10-foot barge pole, apart from that idiot that was out last night. The website goes on to say, we're treating people differently on the basis of sex as lawful, i.e. lawful discrimination. The employer should treat a trans woman, male to female, the same as other women, and a trans man, female to male, the same as other men. That is a green light for trans women to be employed in places like women's refuge and rape crisis. And it's not been tested in New Zealand courts, so I wouldn't abide by that. I would like to be a fly on the wall when it is tested in New Zealand courts. The 2023 census is coming up. Statistics New Zealand has added a gender question as well as the biological sex question. They've specifically said that gender will be the primary demographic variable that will be used for collating information. As you'd expect, the gender question is witty and thought-provoking, and it is, what is your gender? The options are male, female, or other gender, and then free text underneath other gender. If you're doing a census online, you have, I think it's about 43 options for the free text. You aren't allowed to go to the next question unless you put something in there, as I understand it. The idea, of course, will be to get a paper version and do whatever you want. They will, if you don't answer the gender question in the paper version, they will take the information from other answers to the questions and tell you what your gender identity is, and then they will collect that information under that. So in summary, New Zealand at all levels, top down, bottom up, and in the middle, we're a little bit screwed. Things are going through without any attention to feminist viewpoints, and we need to start really making some noise. As I said, I'm hoping that Let Women Speak will help with that. Thank you.